surprised that this is the first word that I'm going to look at. One of the things that happens in the winter when you live in the northern countries of the world, or if you live in the southern countries. Certainly, if you live close to the equator, you don't have this in the winter, but we have lots of snow. Where I live in Ontario, Canada, it's usually fairly white outside from the middle of December till about the end of February. There's something beautiful about snow. When it snows outside, when we have a snowfall, there's something very beautiful about the fact that it covers everything in white. I often joke with Jen that winter is nice because it covers up all the junk outside of our house. Sometimes kids leave things outside, and when it snows, everything just looks perfect. So I love a nice snowfall. One of the things that's neat about snow is that it not only lands on the ground, it not only accumulates on the ground, it also lands on buildings and trees and cars, and it just creates this really beautiful white scenery. If you have never seen snow before, I hope that someday you are able to visit a country that has a really good winter. When I mean a really good winter, I mean lots of snow, lots of really cold weather. Hey, the other thing that we have lots of in the winter is ice. So snow falls out of the sky. When it's cold enough, then instead of rain falling from the sky, snow falls from the sky. But we also have lots of ice. Our rivers, our lakes, our streams, our bodies of water tend to freeze in the winter. It doesn't always happen. It depends how big the body of water is. For instance, when it's minus 5 degrees Celsius, the puddles in our driveway will freeze. Puddles are small bodies of water on a road or driveway. When it gets a little colder, the small creeks will freeze. When it gets colder yet, the river that you see in some of my videos will freeze. And when it gets really cold, the lakes will freeze. So ice is definitely something we have. Once we have ice, we're able to do things like go skating. That's certainly a fun thing to do in the winter. We definitely have what are called snowstorms. So the same way you would have a rainstorm in the warmer seasons, we also have snowstorms. They're actually calling for a snowstorm later today. That means it's just going to snow a lot. If the snowstorm, I'm on the wrong slide, that's okay. Snowstorms are made of many tiny things called snowflakes. You can see here there is a tiny snowflake. There's a belief that no two snowflakes are the same, that every snowflake that falls is unique. I think a few years ago, though, they did prove that it was possible for two snowflakes to be the same. But generally, snowflakes are very tiny. Even when you look at something like this snowstorm, and you can see these bigger flakes in the picture. Each bigger flake is actually made up of small snowflakes. One of the funnest things to do when you're a kid is to go outside when it's snowing in a snowstorm and you try to eat. You try to catch the snowflakes in your mouth and you try to eat them. If you've done that before, let me know in the chat if you've ever gone outside in a snowstorm and tried to catch snowflakes in your mouth. It's kind of a fun thing to do. Mostly kids do it, but I've done it once in a while. If the storm is really bad, if the snowstorm lasts for many hours or many days, and we have a lot of snow, we call it a blizzard. So a blizzard is just hours and hours of snow falling on the ground. I've been through a few blizzards in my life. They are really cool, but also really scary at the same time. When I was a young child, we had a blizzard in the year 1977, and we didn't go to school for a whole week, and the snow was as deep as my dad was tall. The snow was almost 6 feet deep outside, which is 2 meters. We all know that now, because 2 meters and 6 feet is how far apart we're supposed to stay right now. So a really hard and long snowfall would be called a blizzard. I like blizzards, but like I said, when you have a blizzard, you can't go anywhere because it's unsafe to drive. But they certainly are beautiful in the sense that lots of snowfall. This is a picture of a house that's covered in snowdrift. So snowdrifts form when it's windy and when the snow is carried sideways by the wind and it starts to pile up. Okay, so if you have a snowstorm and there's no wind, all of the snow falls straight down. But if there is wind, the snow when it lands can be carried by the wind and it can accumulate into what we call snowdrifts. So around the sides of the house in the picture that you see are some really large snowdrifts. Let me see where I am here. We also refer to the amount of snow as accumulation. So they'll say things like, it's going to snow later today. There's going to be 3 to 5 centimeters of accumulation. Because when rain falls, the rain just goes away. But when snow falls, it piles up on the ground. It accumulates on the ground. So sometimes we'll have 5 or 10 centimeters of accumulation, sometimes 25 centimeters of accumulation. And that's when things get really fun. So we refer to the buildup of snow on the ground as accumulation. You'll also see what are called icicles. Icicles form when snow melts. And then it drifts off the edge of a building or a rock, but then it refreezes, and it forms this long piece of ice, which we call an icicle. Apparently, it's hard to pronounce if you're learning English, so I'll say it a few more times. Icicle. Sometimes along the side of our barn, there are lots of icicles in the winter. So for icicles to form, again, it has to be warm enough for the snow to melt on the roof, but then cold enough that it freezes. So usually when the sun hits the roof of the building, it melts the snow, but when the water drifts off the edge, it's in the shade, and it refreezes. So I mentioned that winter is kind of cool because sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Another thing that we do in the winter is we play outside. Kids definitely play outside. Someone once asked, do kids in Canadian schools have recess in the winter? And the answer is yes. They put on their winter coats and their winter hats, and they go outside for recess or playtime in the winter, all winter long. One of the things that kids do outside, and sometimes adults, is they make what are called snowmen. A snowman is made when you roll snow into really big snowballs and you stack them on top of each other, and then you decorate it so it looks kind of like a person. You might have watched a show called Frosty the Snowman or heard a song about Frosty the Snowman. So definitely, that's something you should listen to. Well, don't start listening to Christmas songs yet. But a snowman is something that often gets built in our yard at some point during the winter. Now, there are different kinds of snow. So there's something called packing snow. You can't make a snowman unless the snow is packing snow. Here's what I mean by that. When it snows and it's minus 10, the snow is really hard and it doesn't stick together. When it snows and it's 0 degrees or minus 1 degree, the snow is softer. And when you put the snow against other snow, it sticks together. We call it packing snow. You can only make a snowman if you have packing snow, because otherwise you can't roll a snowball. So if you are visiting a country with winter and it's minus 10, you will have trouble making a snowman because it's not warm enough. Isn't that funny? It has to be around minus one to make a snowman. Another thing that happens quite often in the winter is that people make snowballs. When you can pack the snow really hard, you can make a ball out of it. And then once you've made a snowball, you can have a snowball fight. So a snowball fight is when people decide they're going to make snowballs and they're going to throw them at each other. Usually a snowball doesn't hurt, but you have to be careful when you make a snowball. You don't want to make the snowball too hard. If you make the snowball too hard, it will hurt when it hits someone. But if you make the snowball just right, it's kind of light and breaks apart really easily when it hits someone. So definitely, again, if you have never experienced snow, I hope that you can visit a snowy country someday and make a snowball and have a little snowball fight. They're a lot of fun. Kids have snowball fights all the time. Have snowball fights. Let's see here. All the time. I'm